Hello everyone, welcome to another session of Dun& Bradstreet CFO Club. We are very privileged to have with us Mr. Hiranand Savlani, CFO Astral Polytechnic Limited. Mr. Savlani, welcome to Dun& Bradstreet CFO Club.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Mr. Savlani, you had a very interesting career journey from where you started to this place as a CFO. So would you like to tell our viewers a little bit about your journey and how it all started and a little bit of highlights that what made you come where you are today?
So first I can say that I studied as a chartered accountant. I completed my CA way back in 1992, and then I joined a group called Kalpataru Power Transmission Limited, and it's a Kalpataru Power's flagship company in the transmission line in Gandhinagar. And with this job, I completed my ICW also, and then I completed my company secretary CS also. And parallelly, I was doing the LLB also. So then I completed CA, CS, ICWA, and then LLB. So the beginning I did with the Kalpataru Power. There I've been appointed as an assistant manager, cost and finance. So it was a very basic learning because it was the first job for me. So I was learning the basic accounting, basic you can say the how the trial balances are getting, because that time the softwares and all was not that active. So all the accounting and all was done on a manual basis. So we were used to do the bank reconciliation on a manual way. So it was a difficult times that time. Now everything is technology driven, so it is much easier life for every finance person. But that time it was not like that. So, but good part I learned in that company was that I used to handle the 13 banks at that point of time. In my beginning of the career, I used to handle 13 banks. So I learned from my boss how to keep the relationship with the bankers. That was the biggest learning I can say I did in my first job. About that, many things, accounting, finance, and all those things were anyway there. We handled the IPO also in that company in 2000 and you can say, sorry, 92. But the biggest learning was how to deal with the bankers. And at a very young age, a young chartered accountant was handling 13 banks. That was, I think, a great learning which I did in my first job.
It's a very interesting thing, you're saying that, your relationship with the bankers. I'm sure all CFOs who are listening to they would reconcile and they will say that, yes, that relationship is one of the crux. I also wanted to, would be very interested to know, because 1992 you said, right, and we are in 2021. So there's been a lot of transformation. Obviously, technology came in. What is the most important change that you see that, from then today and to today? And apart from, and how do you manage those changes? How the learning has been?
So I think it is a complete change. We cannot say what was there in 1992 and what is today. That is a complete transformation has taken place. Technology has taken away your brain, I can say. So, so it's a totally different world today. And the kind of risk you are going to handle today, that kind of risks were not there in the businesses because the scales were also not there. Okay. So today, because of the technology, you are handling the businesses at a scale. And when you are handling the business at a scale, varieties of risk are always associated with that. So I think today's time, if you are not acquainted with the technology, if you are not a tech savvy person, then I think it is very difficult for anybody to manage the task of a CFO. And now CFO's role is increasing day by day. Earlier it was restricted to the financing, accounting, and that kind of activity. Now CFO's role is not restricted to accounting and financing, because now the financing has become so easy. I remember I used to sit outside the bank manager's cabin for a couple of hours to get my work done. Because whenever bank manager used to call me in his cabin, I have to go at that time. But now it's a different world. Now banker is coming and waiting outside your cabin. So that's the big change I can see in today's time. So I think banking has changed. So now importance of finance has gone away from the system. Now if your company is good, your financials are good, bankers are coming at your doorstep and ready to give you money. So I think the role of a finance person is to that extent has reduced substantially particularly for the companies which are the performing company. So now the accounting and financing role is not that important, but I think beyond that, so many roles finance person has to play in the organization. How you are making your organization a system-driven organization, how you are setting up your MIS system, how you are managing your data, because the company has a flooded of data. So within
Right.
that, you have to focus on the key data which are very important on your weekly basis or day-to-day basis or a monthly basis, and you have to focus only on that data which is relevant for you. Otherwise, you will be lost in the data also, because that many kind of
Absolutely.
data are there. And the risk, I think earlier that kind of risk were not there. Now so many risks are there. Currency risk are there, interest risk are there. You can say cross countries risk are there. So many risks you are connected. So CFO roles, I think, has completely changed. Compliances, I think that is the biggest thing which every CFO is passing through today's time, which was not that stringent at that point of time. So now I think there is a lot of change in the role of a CFO.
You spoke about data, so I wanted to know, how are you managing? I mean, you said that, you have to really take out what is important for you because there's so much of data available. So what are the things that you do to make sure that, you can take out and you can understand the insights that a data is giving you? Are you using a different tool, or, what are the avenues that is available and you are using that?
So I think data, there are varieties of means through which you can get the data. There are certain systems you introduce in the organization, which are the software you are implementing into that. And now it is not only a single software, there are multiple software you have to put. Like in our organization, we are working on SAP. So SAP gives us a lot of data. Beside SAP, we are using the BI tools also. So that is also gives you the lot of data, and plus lot of tailor-made software we have designed to take care of our specific requirement. Similarly, CRM kind of data are there, so that also we have to keep tracking that thing. So varieties of, I can say, softwares are there, tools are there, technologies are there, through which we are getting the different categories of data. And then you have to evaluate that which are the data which is relevant as a CFO to you, and which are the data which is not relevant to you but it is relevant to the organization, which can you pass on to your team. So it is not necessary that every data you have to monitor, but at the same time it is important that how your team look at the data. You have to educate, you have to train your team also how to look at the data, because every day you can't see every data. So you have to educate your team also how to evaluate the data, and on the basis of that data, how you are taking the decision, and which are the data which are critical, which you should bring to our knowledge also. So data, I think it is very important. It plays very critical role for any organization, particularly when you are a multi-country organization, or you can say MNC kind of organization, or a different zone you are working. Then in that case, I think data play very important role, and I think every company should spend money into the data so that they get the right data. I tell you, today's time you can't take any decision without data.
Correct.
So if you have
Absolutely.
the right data, then only you are able to take the right decision. Otherwise, it is very difficult to take a right decision also.
So
So
when we're
today,
talking about
decision making
data,
is dependent on data.
right, absolutely. So when we're talking about data, I wanted to understand that do you do any kind of things to standardize data, or is it like because data are coming from different sources? How do you make one data talk to the other to give you insights?
Yeah, definitely you have to standardize the data. Otherwise, you will be getting every time a different data, and you have to look the data in a specific format also. Because every time you keep changing the format also, then also you are going to waste your time. So
Correct,
you
correct.
have to standardize the data, you have to formatize the data, so that every time when you are getting the MIS report, it should be in the same format, in the desired way which you want to look into that. And
Correct.
many times we don't even look at the data, we look at the only graphs. So we want to understand the trend of the data. So we design our data in such a way that you get the graphical presentation only, whereby you can take your decision. Okay, this is data is moving into this direction, that means we are going into the right direction.
Absolutely. I also wanted to understand, you spoke about risk. So what are the things that you are, doing to manage your risk? Because you spoke about different kind of risk has emerged in today's day and age, and how are you managing those risks? How are you, making sure that, they don't affect your share price or your company?
So like it depends on the what category of risk is there, because there are many risks are going on in the system. It's not necessary that every risk is connected to the share price. Share price is altogether different orbit, because that work in many parameter affect to that, and many parameter may not be relevant to your company also. That time also many time share price goes up or share price goes down also. It goes many time on a grapevine also. So very difficult to understand how the share price is moving over any company. But yes, for a longer duration, for an investor kind of people, I think certain data are very important, relevant. So you have to keep monitoring that kind of data. You have to keep monitoring that kind of risk, and you have to see that you all the time mitigate that kind of risk, so that investor community get happy with that. That whenever that risk is coming, company is able to monitor that risk. So risk can be interest related risk. Risk can be a commodity price related risk, how you are managing your commodity price, whether you are hedging that part or not. Even the currency related risk, because nowadays when you are a global company, then you have to keep continuously dealing with the multi currencies also. So
Correct.
risk can come from that side also. So that also you have to see that how you are designing your risk management policy, whereby any such kind of risk comes, so you get affected minimum. Any such kind of thing, situation, definitely you are going to be affected. But we have to see that we design a policy in such a way that we should be affected minimum. Nobody can be a zero affected person. So whenever risk comes, it is going to affect you, but you have to design in such a way that our company should be affected at least. That is what the role of a CFO.
How
That
has been the experience in handling the risk that COVID-19 brought to all of us?
So like it was to be very honest with you, it was a unique experience, because at least I seen first time in my career this kind of risk. Nobody has forecasted that kind of risk.
Correct.
I can call it, this was one kind of a black swan kind of event. So very difficult to plan such kind of risk. So it was, I can say, all of a sudden accidental we got this kind of risk. But we were lucky that our company was financially strong. And secondly, we immediately tie up with the bankers, and we withdrawn all the limit and put up that cash into the bank. Okay. So we don't wanted to take a risk. If this situation will prolong for 3 to 6 months, you should not be starving for the cash. And the situation was emerged in such a level after 15 days or so. Bankers were not ready to give you money. That kind of situation was created in the COVID. But we were lucky that we forecasted everything well in advance. So I tell you, before lockdown, 1 week before, we did a drill in the organization. And we purchased more than 50 laptops for our team. That suppose hypothetically lockdown comes, then how we can manage our organization. That time, our team members were laughing on us. That, what are you talking, sir? Even they will close down the company's offices also. COVID may come, but it is going to affect certain areas of the people, or maybe certain zone. It cannot stop the company, or it's not going to stop offices or. But we say, no problem. If it is not going to close down, it is good. But suppose hypothetically they close, then what you will do? So then in that case, everybody has to work from home. So this work from home culture we forecasted well in advance before the lockdown, and we were lucky that we purchased all the laptops and everything, and given it to every staff, and we did the trials also how you can manage work from home, and all the IT team supported us in a big way. And that time, last moment, few laptops were short, so we were not able to get even laptop from the market. That kind of situation. So we have to shift the PCs to the resident of few of the staff member, because that time laptops were not available. Even many places we were not able to purchase the dongle also, the internet, the Wi-Fi, because that were also sold out. So luckily we took this decision well in advance. So almost 90-95% of our staff was covered. So whatever the limited staff was left out, so there we have to do the special arrangement, and we have to mitigate that risk. And I can proudly say today that even in lockdown also, our team was 100% functioning. We were not affected at all during the lockdown. We were doing every work which we used to do at the office, except meetings. And then we developed the tool of this team meeting and Zoom meeting, and all this concept came later. But initially, nobody has forecasted that. So we nicely mitigated that risk during lockdown. And the financial side was the biggest risk. At that time, I remember we kept 150, 130 or 140 crore rupees of cash in a bank in the form of FD, just for an emergency fund. Whatever the day-to-day routine work we used to do, other than that, a special kitty of 120 to 130 to 140 crore rupees we created and kept in the bank, so that any eventuality arise and we have to spend 10, 20 crore or 30 crore rupee, our company should not be affected.
So being cash positive really helped you, right? I mean, really helped.
No, that time we
taking
were
more
not even
decisions.
having that much of cash, but we withdrawn that amount from the bank's limits and kept aside. We made a losses of arbitrage, because bank funding was 6%, maybe 7%, and banks were FD, they were giving us 5% or 5.5%. So we lost 1.5%, but it was needed at that point of time, because emergency, I can say the contingency fund provisioning was very much needed at that point of time.
Absolutely. So that time I think COVID-19 has taught a lot of things to a lot of us, and especially in a company, as a finance head, there was a lot of learning for every finance head. But for you, there was a lot of learning in how your company had a turnover from 15 crore to 2,500 crore. There's market cap increase. How has that learning been, and how would you describe that learning?
So I think certain things you plan, certain things automatically flow with the time only. So I think when I joined this company, that time turnover was 15 crore rupees. I joined way back in 2003. So then hardly any professional person was there in the organization. I was the only chartered accountant working in the company. So hardly anybody was there. So the best part was that I was able to utilize my experience of previous companies. So like I did the job in Kalpataru, then I worked in the dynamic industries, and then I went couple of years for Dubai. There I learned a lot about the software and how you can manage the business at a scale, how the technology supports you. All this thing learning was there, good learning I can say in Dubai. So that all the experience of last, I can say almost 10 years experience from 93 to 2003. I was lucky to implement all this my experience into this company, because this company size was just 15 crore rupees. So I started putting one by one system, one by one softwares and all this thing. At that time we were all working on a daily kind of softwares and all this thing. And then I was the first person to introduce that time it was not SAP, but we introduced a local software which was related to similar to that kind of platform. And then later on we converted into the SAP. So I think experience of last 10 years working in different areas like Kalpataru and all, I understood the banking and relationship with banker. Then Dynamic, I understood the compliance side with the stock exchanges, because that company was also a listed company. So I learned a lot for the compliances and all this thing. And then in Dubai and all, I learned a lot communication skills, how to handle the software. So different experience I started using that. But I can say the turning point in this company was that we took a bold decision at a very young age of 15-20 crore size to put up a unit in a free trade zone like Badi, where the lot of tax advantages were available at that time. So that was a very interesting story that I went over there to study the benefits of Badi over there for a pharma unit, because we were having pharma unit also with us. Today that unit is no more. But that time when I joined, that time we were having the pharma company, but we were manufacturing bulk drugs. So I went to study the pharma unit, because most of the pharma companies were in Badi. So whether you name it a Kedila, Torrent, Intas, everybody was there in Badi. Because huge benefits were available over there from the government of Himachal and the central government. So I went there to study the pharma unit, putting up the pharma unit in Badi. But when I went there, then I realized that we was manufacturer of bulk drugs. So there was no benefit available to the intermediary guy. It was available only to the company which were into the formulation. That is a company which are directly selling the drugs to the consumer. So like you are manufacturing a tablets or injections or that, they were getting the good benefit, but not the intermediary company. So we were the intermediary. So there was no benefit. I spent 1 week over there, but I couldn't find any benefit which was available to my company. But while returning, I realized that why not I changed my mind. Instead of pharma company, why not we put up a pipe company over there? So that was not a thought when I went to Badi. I went for pharma, but while returning, I that thought came in my mind that why not this benefits is available to the pipe company. We utilize that into that. So then I come back with that, and I told my boss that we should think for the pipe unit over there rather than the pharma. He said that I have sent you for the pharma, and you are coming up with a different answer. I said, but true, but my understanding is showing that our payback will be 18 months only. Now, any business where you are putting so much of money and you are getting the payback in 18 months, that is a game changer for any organization.
Of course.
So I think that was a game changer for us. That decision gave us a lot of free cash flow, I can say. We were minting money, I can say, because that time 18% was the excise duty exemption. 18% is a very big money. And then the sell tax exemption, then the income tax exemption. So we were generating so much of cash flow, and we started then changing our mind, and we started in the organization a culture that we should grow at a 40% CAGR. 40% is not a small number.
No.
And we consistently started growing at a 40% CAGR because we were continuously adding the capacity, and our pricing was so attractive in the market because we were getting so much of huge benefit of tax over there. And we pass on some of that benefit to the market, and we kept certain benefit for us, and we were getting a lot of cash flow. So that helped us in a big way. Then after growing at a 40%, we realized that still it is not enough for us. We should think more for the growth. So after growing 3 years at a consistently 40%, then we thought that if we want to grow faster at a higher scale, then we need extra money. And at that time in 2007, that thought came for the IPO, and we came in the public issue in 2007 with a market cap of close to about 125 crore. And today you can see we are close to about 35,000 crore market cap company. So almost 350 times return to the shareholder in a span of just, you can say, 14 years. We are giving 50% CAGR return to our shareholder. 50%, 50 for last 14 years.
Excellent.
So I think lot of experience, and then we started working on a diversification strategy. So we started with one category of pipe, then we entered into the different categories of pipe, one by one, and today we are.
We understand inorganic growth also played a big part in your growth strategy, right?
Yes,
you have made number of acquisitions.
Correct.
Tell
So
us a little bit about those.
Yeah, 2014, I think that thought came for the inorganic side of growth. So as a casual way, you get as a CFO, you get a lot of mails, okay, from various stakeholders. So one good mail came to me also from the Yash Bank that one of our client want to sell the unit in the adhesive and the sealant phase. Are you interested? Then we can come down to you and we can meet you and we can demonstrate the credential of that unit. So M&A kind of opportunity was there. So in a casual way, I opened up the mail because the title was good. So I thought, let me see what is the company. And then I opened up the mail and I gone through the credential of that company. And that time it attracted me that, okay, it's a really good opportunity. We should seriously think. Then I had a discussion with my MD, and MD say, we have never thought on this line of diversification. But if you are saying it's a good opportunity, why not we meet the promoter and understand? And then we started the dialogues with the promoter of that company, and then ultimately we completed that deal. So that was the first acquisition of 2014, which I can say casual way it came to us in a mail, and that turned our mindset, and we enter into that area of M&A activity. That was our first acquisition, I can say. And but before that acquisition completed, we come across a similar kind of company in UK also. Okay. And that company was available at a far cheaper rate than the Indian company was available. So before that acquisition get completed, we completed the UK acquisition first. Because that acquisition, I remember we completed in a span of just 2 weeks. Because first time I went to the UK, and when we see the unit, and I was with my MD's son was there. That time he was a young boy. He had just completed his education in US and joined the company. And we both were there in UK, and we liked the company very much. So I said that we should finish. So my MD given me power that you finish that part. So even my MD has not seen that unit. at that time, and he put trust on us, and we selected everything and we negotiate everything, and then we completed that acquisition in UK itself. In the morning to evening session in the hotel, we completed the acquisition. So that
Must be
kind
like,
of speed of completing that, I
yeah,
can say.
it's unheard of, like that quick decision on an acquisition. It's really unheard of.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. So many times you know it happened in such a way that God give you the gift. You have to simply accept that gift.
absolutely, absolutely. I will now focus a little bit, from finance and move a little bit in marketing, because I see you guys are, spending a lot of money and you're partnering with a lot of film, cricket star, you're in IPL. What are your views about influencer marketing? I mean, your organization is big in there.
So in India, marketing side, you will not be completing yourself without connecting with the cricket and Bollywood. So in India, if you want to do the marketing, I think you can't miss the cricket and you can't miss the Bollywood. So we thought that if we want to be a good marketing company, then I think we have to also connect with these two. So the first we connected ourselves with the Bollywood. So first our ad we did with Salman Khan.
Okay.
That was in film branding. So Salman's brother Arbaz Khan's movie was there, Dabangg 2, and Arbaz came to our office, and he said that I am coming up with this movie, and in which I am doing a one fight scene. So I want your pipe. With that pipe, we want to hit the goons. So I am looking for a one good pipe company who we can showcase in the movie. So at that time that idea clicked us, and we thought that we should look into that. So my MD son Kairo was looking after this our branding activity. So he came up with that idea that this is kind of opportunity there, whether we should go or not. So then we all senior debated that part of plus and minuses of Bollywood and all this thing. And then ultimately we realized that no, we want to make a pan-India brand, then this is needed. So that was the first move, I think, long back in 2013 or 2012. So that was our first connection with the Bollywood. And then after this movie, we got so much of appreciation in the market and people were loving that ad. And then in a premiere show of Dabangg 2, Salman Khan met us and he said that I'm very impressed with your company, so we want to join some another way with the company. So you tell us how can I help you? And that time we appointed Salman as our brand ambassador. That was the decision taken in the premiere of this Dabangg 2.
So what do you think from a finance person's point of view? Influencer marketing is working for you or not?
So initially, every finance guy feel that these are the waste of money. So that kind of thoughts comes in your mind.
And that's exactly why I'm asking this question.
So that kind of thoughts always comes in mind. But then, because we spent a little money in Dabangg 2, at that time the budget was not that high. So, but the kind of response we got, and many people started selling in the market that Salman wala pipe de do humko.
Okay.
So that kind of wow effect when we seen in the market, so we realized that now this is not a waste of money. It is really going to change the perception of the pipe company in the market. I can tell you, we were the first company in India which appointed a celebrity for branding the pipe. Pipe was a neglected sector in India. And that too, a plumbing pipe was a completely neglected sector. So we were the first company in the country which connected this pipe and started giving education of the importance of pipe and connecting the Bollywood with that. And after that, many companies copied us, but I think we were the first to do that part. And with the success of, I think, the Bollywood, we realized that the only Bollywood is not going to take us to the next level. So then the second pillar is equally important, that is the cricket. We have to connect somehow with the cricket so that the masses can watch your brand. So then the idea came for this, and then we started doing the branding with the respective teams. So we started with one team, and then the second, then third, and now we are doing the branding with 4 teams. So like if you see the last IPL, we were having the 4 teams with us.
Right.
So
It must be like a unique experience.
Yeah, now the Astral brand is known at each and every nook and corner of the country and each and every home also, I can say.
Yes, of course. Now
so
we know
Bollywood
which
experience
pipe is
and the cricket experience was the unique experience, and it has really paid us.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, so good to know that, being a marketing professional, it's so good to know from a finance head and the CFO that, marketing and branding is working for the company. I mean, it's really a pleasure, Mr. Savlani, to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope, you enjoyed the interaction and our viewers, learned a lot from your experience. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. And thank you and take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.